Aloha and welcome back to the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two dudes from halfway across the world chat everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that is Iowa Joe. And tonight we go over the upcoming Monday Night Football game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Joe, thoughts going into this one? Packers are in need of a bounce back after a dud of a Thursday night game.
I don't know if I really have any thoughts on this one because by all accounts on paper, the Packers should come out with a win, but they'll find a way to screw it up somehow. I still think it's going to be a win, but it's going to be ugly. And I know we've got a lot of stuff that we'll go over later on, but just some of the things that I see from that team, I don't know. There's going to be something's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird matchup. You're absolutely right. Like you said, on paper, this is one where Green Bay probably should win by a touchdown or so, but you come back, like you said, a bunch of factors we'll go over, but we'll start with the good in terms of Green Bay's news. Team practice on Tuesday, and great news out of practice. They had a relatively healthy slate. Jair Alexander, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones, Luke Musgrave, Zach Tom, and Christian Watson all participated on Tuesday. In addition to that, Eric Stokes was seen at practice, which means that his 21-day practice window to return from the PUP list has been opened really quickly. So that 21-day window, as simple as it sounds, from the day that he practices, the Packers have 21 days to decide whether he is ready to come back. If they deem him to be ready, they will add him to the active 53-man roster. Move will have to be made correspondingly to open a spot. And after the 21 days, though, if they deem that he is not ready to come back, he goes on IR but is ineligible to return at that point. But either way, great to see Stokes back. Quick note on that one. Stokes commented that he had been working out, but he too was felled by a hamstring injury during his rehab, which is just par for the course for this team.
And that's probably the reason he ended up on the PUP list instead of being activated.
Yeah, they didn't say when that happened, but you kind of connect the dots and you're like, yeah.
But by all accounts, he's fully, ready to go from the original injury.
Yeah.
I think they're going to take the full. I don't know if they'll take the full 21 days, but they're going to at least take a week. I don't expect them to play against Las Vegas, but just not because of re-injury or anything like that, but just for conditioning. I mean, you can do all the work you want in the world, but until you actually get into condition to get out there, they're not going to do it.
Absolutely. No, and it just makes too much sense for a guy with an injury that we still haven't been told exactly what his injury was. It makes too much sense.
Yeah, it was, didn't they say it was a Liz Frank injury on top of a slightly torn meniscus?
Something like that. Yeah. So, but even then, it's kind of mum into the severity of either one and stuff like that. But
well, if it's a Liz Frank, that's pretty much a year full season anyway. So they finally did come out and say that. So we do have an idea on it, but
yeah, which makes his return now pretty impressive because he got hurt the same game Rashawn got hurt. So both guys being back early, at least Rashawn obviously being back for week one, Stokes getting back to practice the beginning of October. I believe he got hurt later in October last year. So like you said, Liz Frank is usually a 1 year, so it's good to see him back out there. But yeah, I'd put our money on he being back after the bye in Denver, but we'll see. Maybe they surprise us. And like you said, especially if the hamstring was holding him back from potentially being ready for preseason, that's the sliver of the thin sliver where he's ready for this week, but it's more than likely they play it a little bit more cautious and he's back for Denver after the bye.
And the hamstring might be back to a relative normal because I know he was running and jumping at practice.
Yep.
So there's video of him running and jumping. So, you're not going to really do that if the hamstring is really bothering you. You're going to ride the bike, you're going to do your stretches and stuff, but you're not going to, jump for fake interceptions, and you're not going to take off at full speed and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's closer than not. And hopefully we get more of rookie year Stokes than we did second year Stokes,
Yep.
and which I think we will in a way, just because I don't think he's going to, and knock on wood, nothing major happens, and unless something comes of it, he's not going to be thrust into the spotlight. He can be rotated in. He can, I don't think he's going to go to the slot because he's always been more of a boundary guy. But who knows? This could also lead to maybe Razul taking some like safety snaps. I'm not saying him take like a permanent role at safety, but taking some safety snaps. So I look forward to see him come back. I just hope he retain his speed. Not that this Liz Frank and the meniscus tear has sapped his speed any.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you said, the hamstring would probably be the one that you would worry more about, sort of like his speed and his explosiveness, as opposed to the Liz Frank. That's more of just his agility, and at least what I've been told is his agility and lateral movement skills. So it'll be like we said. Green Bay tends to be to err on the side of caution when it comes to guys returning from injuries, so that's why we kind of more expect he'll be back for Denver. But heading into this game against Oakland, one of the reasons also that they may kind of play it a little safer with Stokes is the fact that there's a little bit of question as to who will even play for the Raiders come Monday night. Devontae was banged up against the Chargers last week. He basically said he went back in the game because he thought the team needed him, but his shoulder hurt like hell after the game.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any updates as to Jimmy Garoppolo's status for this week, so I would go in kind of assuming that Aiden O'Connell will get the start again for the Raiders this week, just like he did start against the Chargers last week. But so this is the first big roadblock for this game. The elephant in the room is the Raiders' run game against the Packers' run defense. Josh Jacobs has faced the Packers before. They've played against him 4 years ago when he was a rookie. I was actually at that game. That was the Rodgers perfect passer rating game in Lambeau. Jacobs had a really good game that day, and just the thought of a running back of his caliber facing this Packers rush defense doesn't, like you said, Joe, there's a bunch of different things that make you kind of your stomach twist into knots for this week's matchup. And even though the advanced stats say that the Raiders have a bad O line and their run game is 32nd in EPA per play, they are facing the 32nd EPA run defense. And the Packers just seem to always be the team that when they face a team with an inexperienced quarterback and a team with a bad run game, that the Packers are the cure-all and not the other team being the cure-all for the Packers.
Well, I will change that for just a slight. It's usually, especially we saw this last year. It was more when the backup quarterback went in, the Packers seemed less experienced. Right? I mean, seemed less not
Effective,
experienced, but
whatever
effective.
you, yeah,
Where I think of the Patriots game right off the top of my head. They expected Brian Hoyer. Hoyer gets hurt immediately. Bailey Zappi comes in and almost wins and made him look like Tom Brady out there. So it's if they can make a decision on which quarterback is going to play before the game, and the Packers are prepared for him, then it's going to be a little bit easier. But if they play the game, oh, well, Garoppolo might play, O'Connell might play, we're not sure at the moment. And then, we get to, they keep saying it's a game time decision, and we get to Monday and it's, still a coin toss. Then I think there's going to be trouble.
yeah. It's And then it's kind of a weird practice week because kind of looking around before this, I haven't seen too much out of the Raiders side of it, and it looks like the Packers only practiced on Tuesday. They didn't appear to have practiced on Wednesday, so not no further updates from the Packers side, and I haven't seen any updates from the Raiders side of things. So that'll definitely be something for fans to track. But Joe Barry had his usual coach speak comments that they've done some self scout and they reviewed the film and they're gonna make changes. And at this point, it's just empty promises. Like I said, this is the kind this matchup between the Jacobs run game against the Packers run defense. I'm just hoping they don't get embarrassed. That's how low my hopes are for this defense in terms of stopping the run against a like I said, a running back who has had success against Green Bay, albeit in one game, but a good running back in the league.
Yeah, I that's my whole issue right now is how are they gonna the, the Packers always do that where they play down against a lesser foe and then they play up against a bigger foe. I mean, it didn't work out again Thursday night, but that's usually been the norm lately. Where if they're playing like a bottom rung team, they play down to that bottom rung team. If they're playing a top team, they play up to that top team. So this like like I said, this is what this kind of game worries me. And I even had this as a loss in our initial uh preview of the season because of that reason. Everybody, oh well, the Raiders suck. Well, the Raiders suck. Well, yeah, but this is the type of game that the Packers tend to lose because of that. They're either looking ahead or they're overestimating themselves or whatever. But these are the games that I worry about a little bit more than others.
Yeah, I think the thing that you can be a little bit more as a Packer fan, you can be a little more optimistic is that they're coming off of a disappointing and in certain ways an embarrassing loss to the Lions on Thursday night football. And I know that some are already like, you can say that some of it is the weirdness that comes with Thursday night football. But like we kind of said going, in our preview of the Detroit game and even before the season, those Detroit games are going to be benchmarks for this team in terms of their level of physicality and trying to make right for how last season ended. So again, they've got punched in the mouth, got their nose bloodied, and couldn't really do anything about it. So I do think we'll see a better effort from the team. It's good to get that mental and physical reset where they were playing a short week after a exhilarating and emotional comeback against the Saints where they and then turned around and had to quickly face the Lions. So this time they're going into a matchup against an uncommon opponent because it's an AFC game, but they have that extra time to prepare and rest up. So that's where you have a little bit of hope that they're going to they're going to have a better effort. And like you said, this is a game on paper where a good effort should be enough. But the things that the Raiders want to do on offense are what Green Bay sucks at stopping on defense. So that's, like you said, there's a few different reasons why this game makes your stomach turn. And that run game is definitely the big one. The other one is obviously on for the Packers on defense is going to be the fact that this is Devontae Adams' first time facing up against the Packers. Like we mentioned, he came out of that Chargers game in Week 4 banged up. He had left the game after he fell on his shoulder with all of his body weight. There was some concern during the game that he might have popped his collarbone, but obviously he went back in the game and finished the game. So he was healthy enough to do that, but it's probably some kind of AC joint sprain or separation, shoulder separation. So it's something you can play through, but he's going to probably have some kind of harness and that is going to limit his mobility. So, but either way, they have Devontae. You want to have Jair back out there and hopefully Jair with the extra, not just the extra day for Monday being a Monday night game, but the extra days after Thursday night football, he'll be ready to go for that matchup as well. So that would be a big boost for the secondary.
Yeah, I would love to see Jair out there. But really, the second, well, I won't say the secondary completely, but the corners themselves haven't played bad without Jair. They're just not getting help from the other parts of the defense. The pass rush is there, yeah. The run defense is nowhere where it needs to be, and they're obviously only getting partial safety help. So I can't really say that the corners have been horrible outside of a couple of things. Obviously we talked about the Razul biting on a play that was specifically designed to make him bite, and kind of small things like that. But can you think of anything that really makes the cornerback specifically a bad group?
Mostly just depth questions, honestly. That would be the like you said, that would be the biggest concern at this point. If you don't have Jair again this Sunday, Stokes is on his way back, it looks like, but um I guess you do have one more activation for Valentine, two more for Keandre Thomas. Sounds like Carrington Valentine made it out of last week's game healthy, and I thought he played okay. Um, there was a play where it was kind of like his preseason, where if Jared Goff had thrown an accurate pass, Valentine had a chance for a pick six, but Goff sailed the throw like 2 feet high, kind of thing. So I thought Valentine was all right against the Lions, and yeah, I do agree with you that it's it's this defense. The mind-numbing, irritating, infuriating part of it is that the sum is much less than the individual parts, would seem to add up what you think that the sum should be of those individual parts. I agree with you that especially because Devontae is limited, he's going to be physically limited. You should be able to trust the guys you have out there to cover him. And
Well, let's face it, Devontae's going to eat no matter what. I
yes,
mean, no matter who you got out there, Devontae is the type of receiver that he's going to be able to eat no matter what. Now, let's say Jair is back and they decide to do the Justin Jefferson scheme and they just let Jair uh, go with Devontae, then Devontae's not going to get as much as he thought, or as much as we thought. But he's still going to eat. There's no doubt about it because
oh yes.
Devontae is one of those. I don't want to. I can't say he's the goat because he's definitely not going to get the numbers like he should. But he's one of those once in a generation talents. He's
when you when you can produce with Brett Hundley, Deshaun
right.
Kaiser, yeah, yeah,
Right, and that's
yeah,
what I always point out with him is they always talk about, "Oh, well, he had Rodgers all his whole career." Well, no, he was still put in I think he almost hit 1,000 yards just in the year that Brett Hundley was quarterback, didn't he? I'd have to go
he
back and look, but it was pretty damn close.
he didn't because he got knocked out of that game that Rodgers came back in, and they just shut him down for the rest of the year. But I think at that point he was just short of 800, and that was with like 3 games left in the season. So you span it out, and hypothetically, he probably does get to 1,000 yards, and then he has like 2 or 3 seasons where he had like 990 plus or something like
Yeah,
it's basically 1,000, but it's not 1,000. That whole argument and stuff. So yeah,
but he's not the fastest on the team, but he's got enough speed to help. But that guy is just an amazing route runner, and he's got the ability to make people miss. And once he got comfortable with himself to where, we all know the struggles he had early on in his career. The drops were there, but once he got comfortable with himself, once he got working on it, you didn't have to worry about him dropping anything. Yeah,
yep.
you had the occasional one once in a while, but it wasn't anything like a big concern. And I just I wish there would have been a way that the Packers could have kept him. I know the story is that they lowballed him, but if you also go back to what Devontae said in that interview, He said that they were worried because there wasn't enough money to go around. Well, why wasn't there enough money to go around?
Yep.
Can does any take diva quarterback for 500, Alex? I mean, there's a reason why there wasn't enough money going around, and I can understand why they lowballed him. It wasn't right that they lowballed him, but you can only offer what you can offer and still be able to build a team. You can't afford to have your quarterback, your left tackle, your uh, starting cornerback, all these guys making tons of money and be able to expect to keep them all.
Yep. Yep. I mean, like you said, the dude just went over 10,000 career receiving yards last week, and that's not a small. That's no small potatoes. He's likely by the end of this season, if he does what he's done the last couple years of his career, he's going to go over 100 receiving touchdowns for his career. So, yeah, he
What's
like you said,
Rice's record? Isn't
oh,
it like 1,800 or something, or 18,000 or something like
it's like
that?
18,000 yards and 200 something touchdowns. So yeah, he's not
Yeah.
gonna get to those, but yeah, like you said, it's been a hell of a career for Devontae, and yeah, no matter, even if Jair was 100% healthy, Devontae was gonna get his because he's just that good, and that's where. So, like you said, it's not just on the corners; it's on the whole defense. Pass rush has to play up. They should be able to play up against a Raiders offensive line that um
Okay, I was wrong.
inexplicably.
Jerry had almost 23,000.
Oh, Moss I think has 18,000 or something. Someone has like 18,000. It's like Moss or Chris Carter or something like that. But yeah, no one's touching the Jerry Rice numbers. But the Raiders O line has been a work in progress for what seems like since they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Bucks 20 years ago. Um, So this Packers front should be able to, that's part of the reason why their rush offense struggles is because their O line is a tire fire. But um, in order to rush the passer, you got to stop the run, and that's where that spinning wheel comes into effect of what Green Bay is going to be able to do on defense. So um, big game for the run defense because if they can, the Chargers just show, and Chargers don't have a great run defense either, but they did enough. I think Jacobs only averaged like 3 yards a carry against the Chargers, which has been notoriously bad against the run the past few years. And what did they get to do? Khalil Mack got 6 sacks of Aiden O'Connell last week.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see who, if Green Bay can get into passing situations, who gets to have their shot to get to O'Connell. So that's a big one for the Packers. But like we've said, you gotta earn your right to rush the quarterback by stopping the run, and we'll see if they can do that this week.
Well, that's going to be the key is trying to stop the run, and I I don't know. I just don't have any faith in Joe Barry right now. I have a feeling he's going to run one of his shell schemes again, and
It's
it
the
just
perfect scapegoat week for him because he can say, "Well, we were worried about Devontae," but yeah, it's yeah, there's always an excuse.
yeah, and uh, or we're not fully healthy, or whatever, and it's
Yep.
just this would be the game, or it could be the opposite. We're playing such a shitty team, even though right now we're not really an amazing team, but that he goes out and they blank him, and this will be the reason Matt LaFleur keeps him.
Yep.
That'll be
It's
enough of a justification to keep him on staff. And I no.
Yeah, I agree with you that this won't be a down the middle game for Barry. It's either gonna be we're gonna paper mache over issues again, or it's gonna just work out in his favor. And like you said, it's a measuring stick in either direction. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But just like the Raiders O line is gonna have to deal with the Green Bay pass rush, the Green Bay O line, coming in banged up into this game. Hopefully, we're going to get some key pieces back, but they're going to have to deal with one Max Crosby. The rest of that Raiders front isn't much to talk about, but Crosby is one of those guys that is just that good enough where he can affect a game alone. He's just similar kind of player to Aiden Hutchinson, where his motor is running at 2,000% every play, and he just does not stop ever. And it's going to be all hands on deck. You know, like we said, you saw that Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins returned to practice on Tuesday, and you hope that both guys are not only able to return this week, but healthy to make the kind of difference the team needs them to, in order to stifle Crosby's effectiveness. And hopefully, you know, with Jenkins, if Jenkins is able to return, Tom is able to be a little bit healthier than last week. They're able to make an imprint with the ground game, because that would be a way to help limit Crosby's effectiveness against on the pass rush.
I don't care who's out on the line as long as it's not Newman. I'm to the point they can grab some fat guy out of the crowd and make him play lineman. I'm so over it, and they're still going to come up with excuses and whatever. For whatever reason, Royce Newman is out on the field, and no, it needs to be done. The experiment is over. Keep him on the roster if that's what makes you feel good, but he just does not need to be playing in the game. I've started dubbing him Revolving Door Newman, and it just I don't know. If it gets to the point where you can't have, or if you don't have Runyon, or you don't have Jenkins, or you don't have one of these others, then completely swap out your line and move them around. You know, bring in Nyman, bring in whoever you got to bring in. You know, activate Michael Jordan from the practice squad or whatever, and just go with that, because Newman can't see the field. There's no reason for him to see the field.
Yeah. You know, like we said, that you want to have continuity on the line and all that kind of stuff. But if you're missing other guys, it's time, like you said, it's time to shuffle the deck. We hear all the time from this coaching staff that they want to put their best five on the field. Even with Jenkins out, you know, last week, Tom injured, Runyon rolling his ankle on like the second drive of the game. I still don't think Newman was a part of their best five. Like you said, whether it's putting Nyman in and kicking Tom inside, or they've got better options than playing Royce Newman at this point
Well,
of the
you know, and
game.
that's really weird that they're not doing anything with Nyman with all the injuries going on. I mean, I understand you want to put Rasheed Walker in there, and he's been pretty solid for the most part, but you're already paying Nyman $2 million to what? Just ride the bench? I can ride the bench for $2 million.
I would love to ride the bench for $2 million.
You're damn right. I'd even go out there for a play if I had to. But you better be carting my ass back out, but I'll still do it for $2 million. And I don't know. I don't know what the thought process is. It's like they're afraid to do something.
It really
And
is.
you're the head coach. You need to put your best players out there, especially with a first year starting quarterback. You
Yeah.
can't just it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting paid for, is to make those decisions.
Right. And the thing with Newman is that, so like you said, you know, I'm totally fine with figuring out what you have in Rasheed Walker, because you can help a tackle in pass pro. There's things you can do. If your guard is getting whipped off the snap of the ball, there's nothing you can really do about that. And we saw it all last week against the Lions, that Newman is still getting beat like a drum on interior pass rush moves. But luckily for the Packers, Crosby is not a guy who, you know, as they say, reduces inside on passing downs. He is going to rush you from the edge. So they
Yeah, but
haven't
Newman
gotten
would
this.
still fuck it up somehow.
Yeah, I know. So, but
He'd like
we,
block Rasheed Walker out of the way just so Crosby could make a play or something.
oh yeah, no, Mike Wall has been over and over again on how bad Newman is at handing off stunts, and yeah, it's just infuriating to watch him
Hell,
get
bring
reps.
Mike Wall back if you have to. I'm sure he's got a little juice left in his friggin' knees.
Yep. So, I mean, that's really, there's nothing really to sugarcoat or really, there's nothing overly complicated about what Green Bay needs this week. They just need their O line to play better. Um, Obviously, you want to see Watson be, that much healthier this week, that adding his explosiveness back to the offense, and same for Aaron Jones. As much as they said, oh, like he wasn't really on a pitch count, it seemed like he was on a pretty heavy pitch count and wasn't really featured despite his return to the lineup being something that was touted throughout the week. So that was one of the more disappointing things from a coaching standpoint against Detroit. So hopefully with the more regular and really extended prep time for this Monday Night Football game, you hope to see better game plan put forth from the team, and hopefully the combination of better health across the offense and better O-line play, partly due to better health, will allow Green Bay to get better traction. And like you said, Joe, and we've kind of gone back to it in different angles, but getting Love the best opportunity to show what he's got under the hood is what this season is all about. But that's really the quick and dirty for this week in terms of what
Well,
the
you
Raiders are
forgot
bringing.
something, Mike.
Oh, what's that?
You forgot it's the Battle of the Brothers.
Ah, yes.
You got Daniel Carlson versus Anders Carlson.
Yeah, and not just that. It is Bisaccia with his new protege against his old protege. So a lot of layers to that one. It's it'll
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be funny to see if like Bisaccia unveils some new, like Belichick broke out that funky run the sprinter in from the sideline field goal block a couple weeks ago. If Bisaccia has like he knows some tick that Dan Carlson has, and he's like, we're gonna do this thing and we're gonna see if it works or not. But that would be the
it might as well.
the ultimate of the, because I mean, like we said, the Raiders have issues on offense and they may need to kick some field goals. So any little bit of a leg up that Satya can give the Packers would be great in this game. But
And I
yep,
really hope that if Devontae plays, don't just zero in on Devontae, because it's not like they have slouches at their other I mean, they got Hunter Renfro, not like the greatest wide receiver, but he's still a solid number two. And my boy, I love this guy, and only because of Madden, Jacoby Meyer, and he's a solid player too. So you can't just worry about one.
yeah.
Yeah, you might double him or whatever, but make sure you're also covering your other bases with the other guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a little bit of a worry is that because they played with Devontae for so long, a lot of these guys were his teammate, faced him in practice kind of thing, is that you don't want to, whether it's the I'm gonna like Jair being in like I'm gonna show this guy up kind of thing, or the rest of the defense being, like you said, too worried about Devontae's impact, especially because he's limited. And not saying that he's gonna be a full-on decoy come Monday night or anything, but especially because he's coming in, banged up. You don't want to give Oakland. I'm gonna say that a bunch. You don't want to give the
Yeah, I know.
Raiders an
I'm having a
easy.
hard time with it too.
You don't want to give the Raiders, an easier way to play offense because you're just zeroing in on Devontae that often. But it's gonna be a meat and potatoes game. It's gonna be stopping the run on defense, and it's gonna be better better blocking overall on the offensive line for the Green Bay Packers. That's gonna be what's going to determine this game. It's just going to be a very old school determination on who's going to come out of this one with the win. That's my feeling on this one.
Well, I'm going to give you a moment since you're more of our draft guy. What are you seeing out of the new guy that they just signed? Christian Young from the
Uh,
practice squad.
I don't think he's going to do much anytime soon. He's another one of your under athletic safety prospects. some people are trying to say like, oh, is he like a Brian Branch where he didn't test good, but he's just a good football player? But I don't know. I still don't even really believe the Branch hype. Honestly, I think he's
Well, here's
living
the
off
thing,
some
though.
big
They're
plays to
listing
start.
him as a linebacker.
And the thing is like I don't think he's even 220 necessarily. I'm curious.
221 is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So, and that's still light. He's smaller than Tariq Carpenter was. So, um, it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do with that. They seem to, and that's the thing with Barry is, just like Pettin before him, they're on the hunt to forever fill that hybrid linebacker role, and hell or high water, they want to play sub package groups. And I agree. It's more important to defend the pass in the NFL, but you got to care about stopping the run, and that's the problem. That's been the problem with especially Barry's defense, but Pettin's too. Is that you know I get the philosophy is that the pass hurts you more, but you got to care. You can't just be aloof and just lacking any concern about the opposing run game, because that's how it seems like Green Bay plays run defenses. Like it's not even like I think it was Jim Tomsula where he became the Eagles defensive coordinator, and he was like, "We're gonna play the run on the way to the passer," kind of thing. But it's like they're not even doing Green Bay's not even doing that. So we'll see. But and Young, it just feels like him being moved to linebacker. It's just another one of those things that feeds into that mentality.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't really give up on Tariq Carpenter. I'd hoped that they would have kept him as the hybrid guy because he did flash a little bit. Now I don't know what he's doing now. I think he's ended up in Pittsburgh,
But only on their practice squad. So
right? But I
even yeah,
mean, what? But he still went elsewhere. So I don't know. It feels like they're trying to replace him, and if they're trying to replace him, why didn't they just keep him? But I don't know. I don't remember seeing him in this year's draft uh, rotation, so I really didn't pay much attention to him. Could have been because of his athletic scores or whatever, or but the name doesn't sound familiar, so I figured I'd give you a moment to speak on that.
yeah, not too much. He's a guy that I don't think is gonna really impact the roster in any way. He's just another special teams body and practice squad player.
I think they got plenty of that right now.
But Joe, do you have any yes nos for this week?
Uh, I mean, the obvious ones. Does Elton play? Does Jair play? I'm sitting at yes on both of them just because they've had enough. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of the injuries. I'm assuming Jair's is just like a muscle uh, tweak or whatever because they're saying it's nothing too serious. And of course, she got the coach speak that, well, we got a handle on it. We think we know what we're dealing with. So obviously it's not like a herniated disc or a cracked vertebrae or something like that. It's more soft tissue than anything. But I think couple weeks rest he's had and the extra time off and everything, I think he's set to go. Jenkins sounds like he's ready to go too. So like I said, those are the only two yes no type things I have, but I think they're kind of obvious.
Yeah. I guess kind of cutting against the grain would be if Runyon Jr. is going to be able to play this week. And um, haven't seen anything on whether it was a high or a low ankle sprain, but really hoping he's able to go too, because, yeah, if he's not able to go, but Jenkins is, pretty sure we know who's playing right guard. But yeah. But we'll put a pin in.
Unless they slide Tom inside because it's a little easier to slide from right tackle to right guard
That's
than
true.
flip from right tackle to left guard. So
Fingers crossed.
that's all I can hope for because it really is. It's getting tiring. And the only hope that I have right now is they like the kid that they've got on IR right now. a ton,
Tanuda,
and
yeah.
yeah, and when they activate him, they cut Newman. That's the only hope I have right now.
Yep, exactly. Um, and yep, hope is all we've got. But unlike things that need excess amounts of hopes, what you got for your over-unders this week, Joe?
I don't know, I've been really struggling with them because there's so much stuff to that you can come up with for it. I mean, again, you've got your obvious ones, and some of the ones that I have are carryovers, but I've got. I'm only going to do a couple of them. So let's go over under 8.5 carries for Aaron Jones.
I'm going over. He should be healthy this week.
I I would sure hope over, but we know how this team works, and they'll somehow do like 8 carries. Period. Um. Uh. Over under 2.5 sacks for Rashawn Gary.
I think under. I think he's gonna be the guy they key on. So I get the feeling someone else is gonna get all of the stats this week.
I'm gonna go over. I don't think he's gonna go off like Khalil Mack, but I think we have enough of a pass rush that it's gonna be hard for them to key on just one of them. Because if it's not Rashawn Eating, then you know it's got to be Van Ness or Preston or Hollins or Kingsley. So I really think that they're going to have a hard time, and this would be the game that I would say line up Van Ness and Gary next to each other. At least not like all game, but like
Yeah,
a couple of plays, put one of them's hand in the dirt and the other one standing up and rush them from the same side.
yeah. No, the amount of issues that this Raider O line has, I agree. This would be definitely be the week to kind of unveil that and start to really just have fun with it. Honestly.
I would, because I really think that both of them give you the same thing. They're both disruptive. They've both got high energy. They're both strong as hell. You might as well try them on the same side for just a few times just to see what kind of push you can get out of it. Like I said, I'm not telling you to do it the whole game. Obviously, you want your two guys rushing opposite each other, but when you've got two guys that are built the same, that play the same, that are potentially both great rushers, it would be like putting, I don't know, like Reggie White and Clay Matthews together.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're going to put those two rushing pass rushers together on one side. Now, I'm not saying Lucas Van Ness is the next Clay Matthews, is the next Reggie White. I hope people don't take it like that. I'm just saying, with the guys that have the ability to do it, put it on the same side for a couple plays.
Yep. I do think that that is a good thing, and it would, like I said, it would be a good. This would be a good week to start unveiling it.
I was kind of buying my time because I was trying to figure out which one I want to go with next. Let's go over under half a touchdown for Jaden Reed.
I am going to go
So, needless
over.
to say, it's either going to be 0 or 1 touchdowns.
I'll go over this week. I think that he's going to have some fun against this Raiders defense.
I'm going to say, see, this is where I bite myself because I have a feeling he's going to get one, but it's going to be on one of those like jet sweeps. Um, I'm going to go under just because I'm hoping Watson and Dobbs will have a breakout. I think Jaden's going to get his yards, but I don't know if he's going to get the touchdown. I think they're going to go with Dobbs and Watson more.
I can see that.
I do have a couple for the Raiders side. And again, these are kind of obvious ones. So 1.5 sacks, Max Crosby.
I'm gonna say over, just because Walker is still he's still getting his feet wet at left tackle, and Tom, we don't know how 100% he's gonna be, so I'm gonna say over.
I'm gonna say under. I think he's gonna get a sack, but I think they're gonna be able to scheme it up enough to. The only other reason I could see him maybe getting more is if Jordan gets out in the open.
Mm.
If he's got to get out of the pocket quick, then I could see Crosby getting one or two extra off that one. 50.5 yards, Josh Jacobs rushing.
Over. That's too easy.
I don't know if it's easy or not because as you've said and a lot of these other guys have said about it, this Raiders team does not have an offensive line for nothing. And Jacobs really has been, you know, it's been hard for him with that offensive line. So I think I'm really hoping Slayton can step up and Kenny's gonna do Kenny things. I'm gonna go under, but I'm gonna go slightly under.
I'll believe it when I see it. That's all I
And
can
then
say about
yeah,
this
but
run
like I said,
defense.
this is one of those games that we said it earlier that could go either way. It could be the game that turns Joe Barry into the next savior, or it's going to be the game that is the definitive answer on Joe Barry being gone.
God, I hope so.
And if it goes the one way, then they're going to hold them to almost nothing. So that's my only hope. And then the last one on the Raiders side is over under half an interception by the whole Raiders defense.
Ooh. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go under. I think Jordan's gonna have a clean game this week.
I'm going to go take the over. I think he's going to get one, and it's going to be off some kind of stupid play, whether it's a mistake play or it's going to be a tip play or something. But I think he's going to get overexcited on something and just like let it go. Because like I said last time, and I was pretty spot on with it for the Lions side of it, that his numbers were going to start balancing out here pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I think this is a game where he's going to have a better game. I just think he's going to give up one. I don't think he's going to give
Yeah.
up more than one, but I think he'll give up one.
Yeah. I could see it being something like you said, just like one of his 2 picks from last week. Like, those were both picks that you can pretty easily argue neither were really his fault kinda thing. So, but hoping it's a clean game, and hey, looking for good news, he was almost at 67% completion. I think he was at like 64 or something like that. So something was trending in the right direction for Love last weekend. You kind of hope to not kind of you do hope to see that trend continue moving forward, because more completions means more plays for the skill position players.
Well, and like I've said this whole time, I can't place all the blame on Jordan. There's been a
Yep.
lot of drops and there's been
Yep.
a lot of bad routes. And he's not getting help from his line. He's not getting help from the run game. So I can't place it all on Jordan. I think he would have a lot better uh stat line if things were going right for him. But we knew this
Yeah.
was the situation because of how young a team this is.
Agree. Yep. So we will see how it stacks up come Monday night. But Joe, any final thoughts on this one? Any final things for the listeners?
Other than we still haven't decided what we're going to do next week. We don't know if we're going to do just a single episode or if we're going to still drop two.
Yep, just because it is the bye. Guess we'll see how we're feeling, how we like what we see or don't like what we see on Monday night. But that may be the ultimate. We will post some updates on the socials following the game to kind of let you know what the bye week layout is going to look like. But once we come out of the bye week, heading into the game against Denver, we will go back to our usual Tuesday and Thursday drops. But that's going to do it for us today. We want to just say mahalo for joining us on this week's edition of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast preview for the upcoming Monday night game against the Raiders. Please, please give us a follow on our Twitters. I am at Kawano Mike. Iowa Joe is at Iowa_Joe86. And the podcast is at Ohana_Packers. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us a like on this episode and others, and please feel encouraged, I should say, to leave comments as we do enjoy the feedback. Moving on, Packers have to pick themselves off the mat after a disappointing Thursday night game, but it's on to the ninth aisle, and here's a hearty go Pack go for Vegas to the Packers going to Vegas. Thank you for joining us, and aloha.